my name is Elaine Del Valle. I am a writer-director, and I've been a professional casting director for well over a decade now. I own and operate Del Valle Casting, and I really enjoy it. We do film, television, commercials, voiceover, we do animation, and we love just finding great talent, honing in on them, and helping them, and also just placing them and introducing them to our producers and directors that are wanting that perfect person for the role. So. The audition process for me, first let me preface by saying that I, like most casting directors, actually begin their career as actors. And so in my case, I actually was a working actor, and I very much loved acting and studied acting very seriously. And I think that we understand the process of auditioning. We know what that's like. So there's an empathy that we have for the actors when they come in. So I think as soon as actors realize that, they can relax a little bit and understand that we have been there, or at least most of us have, and so we want the experience to be good for you. I know I do. I know when I started casting, I was given the opportunity to cast. I didn't say I want to be a casting director. Actually, someone offered me the job, and I said, yeah, I think I can do that. And what I said to myself was, I think I can do that, and I think I can give the actor a better experience than I was having. And so that has always been my aim with Del Valle Casting, especially when it comes to finding talent that is of ethnic minority, whether that be Black, African American, however you want to call it, Latino, Latinx. That was something very important to me and making the audition space better for actors. But I do understand what it is to go into an audition room and feel like you've just wasted your entire day for 5 minutes and then you're tossed aside. I know that feels like that, but it's not at all the case. The biggest misconception is that we don't have time for you to hear you. We really do have the time. We want to take the time to really get to know you and really be wowed by you. Every time someone walks into the audition room, or every time I press play on an EcoCast self-tape, I just want that person to be great. And so I think the biggest misconception is that it's us against you, when really we are wanting you to do the best that you can. And we want to be able to show you off and say, look what I found. So I think that's the biggest misconception. What really helped me to be great at what I do, I think, is really being in the position of being the actor and learning from, I studied acting under Wynn Handman at Carnegie Hall. So that was a class that was twice a week. Every single time, every actor in the class worked. We had scene study. So I had the chance to not just watch professional actors doing their thing all the time and do that as well, but also learn from a master, that was Wynn Handman, who was directing them. And so what I learned that was so surprising to me is that I was able to bring everything that I learned as an actress from my teacher and the way that he worked with actors into the room as a casting director, and even more so as a director. When I started directing films, I knew that I wanted every single actor in every role of my film to give it, to have that be the best acting role that they've ever played. And I wanted to be the person bringing it out in them. As an actress, when I was being directed by directors, very often, actually more often than not, they would say nothing to the actor. Or at least to me, they would hardly say anything, just action, okay, and maybe something or other. But for me as a director, it really surprised me that speaking in the language of acting to actors is really what works best to them. So going into prep for a film, every time I justify every one of my decisions so that when the actor asks me the question that I know is going to come up, because it's how I would have delved deeply into that and needing that answer, every single time I have that answer ready for the actor. And so that was something that really surprised me, and I'm very proud of myself for the way that I interact with the actors, both on set as well as behind the camera when I'm in the casting room and directing them in that way. I became a writer because I was extraordinarily frustrated at the lack of roles that were available to me as a Latina actress. I just felt like nothing was speaking authentically to my experience, especially in my case. I am an urban Latina actress. I'm Puerto Rican, originally from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York, and I wasn't being given those opportunities. And so it frustrated me, but that impetus ended up making me write. And I wrote what became an award-winning one-woman play. And I put it up and it went off Broadway. And it really changed my career. It really empowered me to understand that I don't have to wait for those roles. I can create those roles for myself. Further to that, the audiences were thirsting for it as much as I was. And so with that knowledge, I continued writing. I continued wanting to pursue that. And I started writing a web series. I produced it and directed out of default because no one else wanted to do it. That's how I came to directing. In doing the one-woman play, I had invited a commercial producer to that play. And he is the one, after seeing the play, that asked me, he said to me, I want to work with you every single day, but I cannot hire an actor every day. So what else can you do? And I just asked him, what do you need? And he said, do you cast? So that's actually even how I began casting. This year in 2020, at the end of 2020, I sold my first pilot to a big network. It was a really big deal. I studied the craft of writing. I had to learn that in the same way that I had to learn the craft of acting, learn the craft of directing. I dedicated so much time to learning how to do that effectively and what it took. So now I'm able to put everything together, all of those pieces, as an actress, having studied the classics and scene study and watching the actors perform, developing the character, as a playwright, understanding what the audience reaction will be to things, as a casting director, being inspired by not just the actors that I know, but the actors that I see come into the room or provide me with a self-tape. Those actors that just illuminate the room for me, I think of them when I write characters now. And so everything just lends together and culminates into what I know has been a very unique career on multiple levels with multiple genres being touched upon, all of which are very exciting to me.
My question, my fact or myth is that you're not supposed to introduce yourself to the casting directors. Fact or myth?
Introduce yourself or shake hands. So fact is, in general, you don't go over and you touch people. In general, that's not really a cool thing to do because some people don't want to touch. Never mind COVID. This is even before COVID. In general, you should not go over and shake the hand. However, that said, I have seen it done. I have seen it done successfully where it has not intruded on the space of the people on the other side of the table. And for me, I don't mind it as much, but I would not want my clients to have to deal with that. So if you're in a callback room, I think it's just as easy or just as great for you to come in and say, hey everyone, how are you? And greet them in that way, but you don't have to do the touch thing. That can hurt you.
What is your number one pet peeve when you are auditioning people?
My number one pet peeve when I'm auditioning people is when they come in ill prepared. I feel that they need to take everything seriously, every job seriously. Otherwise, if they don't want it, just decline the audition. But you should be there, you should be prepared, you should give it your all, because this career is such an exciting one, right? I mean, think about it. Think about an actor and how exciting that life must be. Every day, you don't know what's your next audition going to be. You don't know if you're going to book that job. You don't know if that job is going to take you somewhere else, and then you're going to meet someone else, and it's just, it can really change on a dime. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. So I think that you need to bring the love of that into the room, and then also breathe it into the character, and just consider it a time where you get to play, where you get to literally do what you love, because that's what acting should be. If acting is not what you love, stop doing it, because you should only be an actor if you must act. And it's such a passionate career path that you just need to put that out there in every audition. And so someone who comes in ill prepared just shows me that they don't have the passion. So why should I have the passion for you if you don't have the passion for yourself?
Thank you so much. Well said. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my question, Elaine. It's nice to meet you. Can you please bust the myth that auditions are hot seats?
The myth that auditions are hot seats. Well, that all depends, doesn't it? I understand where you can be very nervous during an audition. I remember my first audition was for a commercial, and my teeth were chattering. I could hear them. I had never felt that before, but that is something that occurs. So it's normal to be nervous. Practicing your craft makes you less nervous every time, or at least better able to handle it. Being on live stage makes it all better able to handle. So if you're considering it too much of a hot seat, maybe the thing to do is to really get grounded by studying the craft a bit more, so that you feel more capable to handle whatever is being thrown at you at the time, or whatever you're feeling, to just let it happen. And I think that is how you get over the nerves. I think it was Win Handman that said to me, if you're not nervous, where there are no nerves, there is no talent. So take that and know that is actually, that's a part of you that is the talent inside of you, and just use it to your benefit. And whether you consider it a hot seat or not, you have to make the most of every single situation.
Hi, Elaine. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. My question for you is, how much time would you suggest taking after the slate and before you begin the scene, as well as at the end before you break character?
When you start an audition, well, most of the time people are putting their slate in a separate take, but in the case of your question, where it's all going to be in one, I would say introduce yourself, take a moment to be the character, feel the character, turn around if you need to, and then turn back to us in character. And I would say keep the moment for as long right until the moment after you become uncomfortable. I would say keep it going until it becomes uncomfortable. Now you can always take your if you're self-taping, you can always take that and edit it away, those things. However, if you're in the room and they're asking you, okay, we're just gonna slate and then go right into it. Just remember, it's always your audition. So take your time. That time is granted to you. Take your time, do what you need to do to get there and give what you want to deliver to camera. It can be daunting, but let the experience be joyful for you. Always know this is the best day of my life because I'm getting a chance to do what it is that I love doing. And then do it and make us know it. And I like to linger in character before and after. So I would say even if you have the opportunity to introduce yourself first on a separate slate first, and then do the character, I would say that's the better thing to do.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
In the past year, right, during the pandemic, everyone's stuck at home. If you happen to have an audition request and you were by yourself and have no one to read with you, but there are other characters in the scene, how would you advise best approaching that as an actor?
If you're an actor that has a self-tape request and you have no one else to do it with you, I would recommend, well, first, I would try to have a friend over Zoom do it with you or another platform, even FaceTime, for timing, because it does help. And it helps for you to react, after another character. Now, there are a multitude of platforms now that actually have actors waiting to audition with one another. So I don't know them off the top of my head, but I have heard of these things where there are people ready, or you can just sign up and someone will read opposite you. Also, if it's something that's really important to you, definitely you should have a coach on standby, ready to do the self-tape with you, whether it be in person or via Zoom, because you want that, especially if it's something that you have to give in, that's a self-tape. It absolutely should be done as many times as you need it to be done before you say, that's the one that I want to send in. I look at self-tapes even more critically than I would in the room. In the room, you can only control so much, but when you're doing a self-tape, I have to imagine that you have at least done it 5 times. And of those 5 times, you will have looked very carefully at each of those options before you choose which one best represents you. I think that is the best thing about the self-tape experience. And I think that a lot of actors don't take that advantage that they have there to watch themselves, critique their performances, give one better if they have time, even after, if they watch all of their options and they're not happy, do it again. Because when I look at that, I have to imagine that is what you think is the best performance to give me. So take your time, definitely utilize the platforms, have a coach on standby. Technology is too rich for you not to have another person reading opposite you. And if the worst comes to absolute worst, I recommend that you tape the other lines for yourself and have them on a time bar. It's definitely a techie thing and you have to get used to it, but it's better for me to hear that than to just feel that you are reacting to nothing. And if you study the craft of acting, you know that acting is not just acting, it is also reacting. And so you need to have something to play off of. And so I recommend that you work really, really hard to try to get someone to read with you, even if it's just your mom.
Thank you for that great answer. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. is true that you should wear little to no makeup for on-camera auditions. I would say that the camera picks up everything. So the reason why you should have a more understated look is because we want to see you. We don't want to see the makeup covering you up. And it's fine to wear light or highlight certain things, but someone who comes in with way too much makeup, the camera's going to pick up every single thing, especially these 4K cameras now. Some of them now are 6K. So we definitely do not want to have every eyelash pronounced that's a little, it'll pick it up. If your eyelash is one way or another way because of the mascara and the way that you put it, the camera is going to pick that up. And I know it's kind of ridiculous, right? Because you're acting there for the role, and if the role necessitates a certain amount of makeup, in general, just pat yourself with a little bit of powder, very light makeup if you need to wear any at all, and allow you to illuminate from within. If an audition for a role says name talent only need apply, then no, you should not submit. You should not submit unless you are a name. Because if I wanted to see anyone, then I would put it out as a general casting. I would not make that note on it. In general, when I am looking for name talent, or when my producer and director have asked me to go after that talent, I will go after the certain talent and make an offer on them. But if we don't know who we want, but we know we want some sort of a name, there's a reason behind that. And usually it's because financially the production needs a name in order to get the backing that they have been either looking for or promised from someone, if a name is put out there in front of the role. I think when you go into an audition, into the role of anything, I think the only thing that you can truly give it that is unique is you. You are something very unique, and so you have to use whatever experience that you have that comes closest to that character's experience, or if you have not even had anything like that happen to you in your life, you have to first suppose how you would react and then use it in combination with how you think that the character should react, because you are the thing breathing life into that character. And if everyone just decides what the character would do with no other nuance, then everyone might be delivering a very flat performance that is not a 360 human performance. I think you have to bring all of your experience to any character that you bring to life. Or another thing that I used to do all the time, and what I ask actors to do, is create the world around them and do a lot of improvising when it comes to that. So if you're setting up for a character, create the moments beforehand, before you get into the role, before you even start. Create those moments that happen before with the character. You don't have to divulge them, but it should be a layered performance. And I can't imagine not lending whatever experience you have to any role. And by the way, for actors that are just coming back, I recommend to all actors that they not just study the craft of acting, but also maybe take an improvisation class. There are amazing improvisational places like the People's Improv Theater, the Upright Citizens Brigade, IO West, Second City. All of these things help you to be extraordinarily creative and just say yes and then let that motivate the character. And where you don't have the time, you have to react immediately in order to keep the game going. And I think that that's something that maybe an actor that's just getting back into it, or any actor, should try to practice before they or during or whenever they want to move forward in a role. So there is a saying by David Mamet, and I wish I could remember it word for word, so this is really going to be bad in my trying to tell you what it is, but it's something like every scene has a number of things. It's who wants what from whom, and what happens if they don't get it. And that is, there's something else to that, but definitely look it up. But that is raising the stakes. What do you want, and what happens if you don't get it? If they're saying raise the stakes, they want to understand the passion that you bring to whatever it is, the scene that you have. And every scene needs to answer that question. Who wants what from who? And what happens if they don't get it? And there's another thing I'm forgetting, but that's definitely one of those things with raise the stakes. When I hear the term throw it away, I like to think that when you say to someone throw it away, it's because they might be doing a little too much with it. And earlier on, I said that you are an actor supporting the story. You're supporting the story, you're supporting the protagonist, you're serving the story. And so if it becomes more of something that feels like you're doing too much to be recognized for what you're doing, it's becoming too much, and it's becoming too much for the camera. And so when I think throw it away, it's like, how would you order a cup of coffee at a diner? Can I have a cup of coffee? Or, excuse me, can I have a cup of coffee? You might be doing that instead of, making it just something that is an everyday occurrence rather than something that's life or death or high stakes, as they call it, right? I think it's fine to ask questions if they are valid questions. I personally, as a casting director, I do not like to ask the actor if they have any questions, because I want them to come in and give me what they prepared based on every question that they answered for themselves, that they have justified, that they have worked on. I don't want to muddy their creativity with something that I have in my mind. I want them to enlighten me with something new. That's just the way that I work as a casting director. However, of course, if someone has a question, they should definitely ask it. It should be valid, and they should be able to, based on the answer, they need to be nimble and be able to adjust their performance based on the answer. So many times actors come into a room and they are just absolutely set with how it is that they want to play it, and as soon as they get any direction, they can't take it because they are too set in what their decisions were. So you must be loose and able to take any advice or any change. Now, something that I do in my audition room is, whether or not you have just given me the best performance that I have ever seen, it could be exactly what I ever wanted. This is perfect. I know everyone's going to love this. Regardless, I ask the actor that I am interested in to change it up a bit. And not because I expect that the director or the producer will want to change in that performance, but because I need to understand that the actor is ready to take a note, ready to change on a dime should something happen. Because on set, you will no longer be shooting interiors. Now we have to shoot it exterior. Exterior, it's going too quickly. The light is going too quickly. We have to hurry up. We only have this amount of time for your shot. We have to cut this, we have to cut that. You change a line, the name of the character changes. You must be able to change and work with them Otherwise, you're just a robot, right? So you have to be able to change it up. And for me, I think that's a really great characteristic in a fantastic actor, to just be able to change it up, take the note, digest it, really take your time to take the note, even if it's an extra moment in the room, to say, let me ask you, let me make sure that this is what I've heard. So you want me to, and just make sure that that's what you've heard. Make sure that it was communicated properly, even if that's just your tactic of, I know I need the moment. Let me ask them this moment so that I'm sure of what I'm doing, so that I can get into it. And then really lean into that and make it happen. Oh, I wish I could share a screen right now. Because if you saw the screen of what I see on the submissions, the first thing that I see are the headshots. So I think that an actor really serves themselves well with great headshots that speak to certain characters. I remember years ago, a woman by the name of I forget her first name, Fern Ornstein. I believe her first name was Fern. And she was with one of the major networks. And she was giving a class on what makes a great headshot. And she held up one headshot that was a nice headshot, very attractive person, or even if they weren't attractive, I hate that word. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and we need everybody that looks real in this world, not like all raving beauties. But she held up a picture of an actor that was just, guy in a shirt, kind of casual. And then she held up the same actor in a photo that really spoke to the role of a detective. And he was wearing a different thing. He had a different look about him. He was holding on to his pants like this. He was leaning up against something, and it really spoke to the role. And she just said, who would you bring into the room? She held up this one and she held up this one. Now I'm casting a detective. Who would you bring in? And it was just so clear to me. And now as a casting director, the first thing that we see on submissions are a whole load of photos, not just yours, but we see thumbnails of photos about this big. We're looking at your photo this big. And you want that photo to speak to the role. So I always say, have different photos to submit with and make sure that each one speaks to a different role that likely you are able to get. And that is a photo that will serve you enormously well and prompt me to call you in, because right now I'm looking at hundreds of photos, if not thousands, and I have to be very specific as to who I'm calling in. And the first thing that I'm looking at is who embodies the role best. And I'll take another, it doesn't have to everybody look the same. I'll look at everyone and say, oh, that would be interesting. That person might be interesting in it. Oh, that one's dead on. And so really the photo is number one. And then I also recommend that every actor have some sort of footage, whether it be footage that represents a role that they have been in and it looks great. I think everyone these days should at least be able to have a monologue or an actor slate that lets me know who you are, kind of. And it doesn't have to say much, but if you look at someone's photo and then you hit on their film, there's a little film button on the submissions that we get to see, and we can click on it anytime that we want to get a better sense of what that actor is, as opposed to the photo that may not be realistic to who they are. So if the photo intrigues me, then I'll click on the reel, and even if it's an intro, I will get a sense of the person. And these days, I recommend, if you don't have a reel, you should put a monologue on tape in the way that you would self-tape yourself, with a clear background. If you're looking at your screen right now, there is someone in the room, Madison, who has a clear background. I can see her perfectly. She's perfectly in frame. She's wearing a great color. You should follow that protocol and create a self-tape that'll represent your work, because we find lots of talent for at showcases, and whereas prior to COVID, those showcases were all the time in person at theaters, and you would find agents and managers and casting directors going from theater to theater trying to find all the graduating classes that were putting on their shows, and how they were doing it with scenes from great plays or with monologues. And now those great places like the Yale School of Drama, great institutions with great acting programs, they are sending us that work to view. And so I would be looking at your self-tape or your tape that you have representing yourself in that same way. And I expect so much from it. So you have the power. Just take it and do it. I want you to know that when you are self-taping, really, we watch so many self-tapes. Make sure you give a fantastic performance, and make sure that that performance starts from the get. You cannot warm up to get there. We don't have that time. And you are competing with people who have done that work and do bring that immediately. So if you're wondering why you're not getting it, first, the role can only go to one person. And you have to be the best person for that role. Not only do you have to embody it, but you also have to do the work for it. And that work must be immediate. So I implore actors to watch their self-tapes, to really be their hardest critic, and know this is great, this is the one, right from the get all the way to the end. But I think the beginning is probably even more important, because if you don't have me from that early beginning and someone else does, I'm going to continue to consider the someone else, but not the person that didn't have it from the beginning. I feel that watching is so important to the actor's craft. Even before self-tape was a big thing, it was something that I was advising actors to do, because I would have actors come into the room and I couldn't wait to see them, because their pictures were fantastic, their resume and training was great, and then they came into the room and they were moving a lot, moving their faces quite a bit for an on-camera audition, and moving their hands, and it really was distracting. And I remember once I actually told someone, you have everything going for you. I recommend that you watch yourself acting, because I think that you will pull back on your reactions quite a bit if you understand what it is that you're giving the camera. I just want to add also that a resume, I'd rather see great training on a resume than a ton of roles that I don't know where they came from and you don't even have the footage to represent them. I would rather see that you have put in the work to learn the craft of acting, because so many people come into the career path thinking, I want to be famous. And that's just not something that anyone is going to take seriously. That is a great question. How should you portray, don't pantomime, how should you portray things? So often I will have people, the scene is with a phone, and people will go like this. When they have a phone, they can use their phone, and they have immediately taken me out of the scene. And it's not always terrible, but use your phone, use whatever makes sense. And if it's something like a hug or a kiss, you have to have the emotion of it. You have to have the emotion of what's going on in the scene, and you can have that emotion of the hug and then come back. Now, I didn't do any of this, or I didn't go like that, right? But you still felt that. So all we're looking for is that you're able to portray the emotion of what it is that's being carried out. So don't do anything that's going to take us out of the scene. You want to keep us in there the whole time. I just want to say thank you to Backstage and everyone who took the time to ask questions. And I definitely want every single actor to succeed. And I expect so much from actors because I love the craft. And I expect you to do everything that you can to be the best actor that you can. Learn from different instructors, take different classes, collaborate with other actors, make your own work. Don't complain that the roles are not being written for you. You can change that. You can do that. You can have fun with it. And definitely have fun with it. No one that has made the room laugh has ever been forgotten. So definitely, if you have every opportunity you should take to make us laugh, lean into the joy of things, and remember that even if you're doing a dramatic scene, there is no drama without humor, and there is no humor without drama. So live in the moment and make sure that you give a very full performance. Be brave. Take stand-up comedy classes. Take improv classes. Take scene study with people that you really respect. Keep challenging yourself. Go for roles that, or at least create the roles, right? That you want for yourself. Keep challenging yourself. If it scares you, that's the direction that you want to take. I do the same thing for myself with directing, with writing. Lean into what scares you so that you can be most prepared for anything else coming your way. Follow me on Instagram if you would like to know more about the work that I'm doing in terms of what I'm writing or the next film that I'm doing. I have a film coming out on HBO that I directed called Princess Cut in May, so I'm very excited. This is my second short film that I directed that landed on HBO, so I'm extremely proud of that. You can find me on Instagram at Elaine Del Valle Director, and also on the Clubhouse, follow me at Elaine Del Valle. I jump on from time to time, and I do answer every question that every actor has or anybody has about the festival circuit, writing, directing. I'm very open with information because I want to give the information that I wish I had at all times. I want people to know, well, this is what I did to succeed, and if I can make it any easier for you, great. And be collaborative with people. This is not a me against you thing. Acting in general, filmmaking, it's such a collaborative effort. And be a part of a team and grow with the people around you. Stop trying to, I have to be in touch with that person in order to succeed. That's not how it works. It's really about being around other actors, first-time filmmakers, and growing with them so that then you are that team. And before you know it, you look back and there's a whole bunch of other people wanting and striving to be exactly where you are. I just want to end by saying that when I first started acting, the Holy Grail was Backstage and the Ross Report. And Backstage is still very much out there and very much helping actors, especially the people just starting out. So congratulations on such a long history of helping actors. I know when I was just starting out, I would buy the newspaper and be looking all over Backstage to see what was going on. So congratulations and thank you.